brothers Wiss. The brothers Wiss, brothers Wiss. The brothers Wiss. The brothers.
You're now listening to Greg.
It's the brothers. You'll see the Cambium employees with the button I'm kindly modeling here. Ask them for a discussion on intelligent edge and where that shows up. But let me start with the wireless fabric as a whole. So certainly everybody has different perspectives of their market or their network and how they build it out. From a Cambium standpoint, you start with that high capacity core, the sub-6 point-to-point, the licensed 820, and the development innovation that takes place there. We introduced the PTP 550 with non-adjacent channel aggregation, asymmetric. We built on top of that just yesterday, releasing a new release on top of that to enhance the load balancer and advanced latency. Our point-to-multipoint portfolio is without compare. The PMP 450 on a worldwide basis, anchored by PMP 450M, initially at 5 gig, first announced here and shipping in September of 2016. We have thousands of nodes deployed around the world at this point and shipping hundreds of links or hundreds of access points every month. ePMP, the third generation in the ePMP 3000 platform, we'll announce and talk about today. The CN Ranger, the LTE platform, and innovation that's coming after that at the higher bands. Industrial IoT, the industrial Internet of Things, anchored by CN Reach in the narrowband channels. Certainly some of you have exercised that to bring SCADA and access to remote facilities. We'll build upon that with our LoRa compliant platform and a solution set, not just a transport solution, utilizing CN Maestro to manage that cloud-based application suite. And edge access, particularly on Wi-Fi with CN Pilot, that portfolio continues to expand. This year we've introduced the E430 wall plate for hospitality. We introduced the Wave 2 outdoor Wi-Fi access point, the E700. We've introduced managed service provider functionality on CN Maestro that allow those that are providing Wi-Fi as a service in addition to fixed wireless broadband access using ePMP and PMP 450. CN Maestro, as we've talked about the last 2 years, is the cornerstone of our strategy. Yes, bird's eye view of that network from a fault management, element management, software upgrade, warranty management, but now extending into SaaS services, extending into managed service provider functionality for those providing Wi-Fi or other managed services on top of it. It will host IoT applications. It will provide the intelligence behind that network to provide higher value to the end customers exercising it. And we continue to invest and enhance in our post-sale support. We invest in that both in the field in the form of our regional technical managers, many of whom are here with us tonight and will be here for the next couple of days, but our Tier 1, Tier 2 call centers, our Tier 3 support engineers, and we've invested in that domestically and internationally as our customer base grows. Our online community, the community forum, still amazes me with the growth of participation in that. Ray Savage is here tonight. He moderates that tool, and it's a tool for you to exercise and engage directly with our development engineers, our support staff, the product line managers. It's a tool for Cambium to explore new ideas and new solutions. All part of that post-sale support story. I also used this slide last year to share with you the foundation of our strategy and what we think about. And what's important to understand and appreciate is the foundation of our house is fixed wireless broadband. But it is by no means static. The investment that's taking place there, from massive multi-user MIMO to beam steer antennas, to beam forming antennas, smart antenna technology, investment in LTE, investment in 28 gig, investment in 60 gig, significant investment taking place in the foundation of our business. Second room of our house that we've invested in and continue to see substantive growth on a worldwide basis is Wi-Fi, the second lingua franca of wireless broadband networking beyond 3GPP or LTE. Wi-Fi to us is second nature from a development standpoint, from a resource standpoint, from a channel standpoint, from an end customer standpoint, and we see tremendous growth there, transitioning from N to Wave 2, and by the end of 2019, the AX platform. IIoT focused principally on the industrial space here, initially in the narrowband radio with CN Reach, extending that to LoRa, building on top of our CN Ranger platform to support narrowband IoT. Tremendous opportunity for us and for you in this space. Great to have products, great to have networks, but if you're not able to plan those networks, if you're not able to commission those networks, if you're not able to manage those networks, if you're not able to draw on additional intelligence and resource efficiency from those networks, it's for naught. We're investing heavily in intelligence at the edge, with artificial intelligence to drive better decision making. You may have seen recently a blog post from Nigel King, our CTO in that space. And we're investing in artificial intelligence in our post-sale support processes. The applications that ride on top of these networks are an important part of our strategy and will persist into the future. So, I want to start with 7 questions. The vast majority of the folks in the room are wireless internet service providers or partners that serve the wireless internet service providers. And these are 7 questions that we are often asked. And I suspect you ask them of your other manufacturers as well. But I want you to test these questions, because these are the questions that we ask ourselves when we set in motion product development, when we set in motion changes in our organizational structure, when we look for different services and applications to bring to you. If you don't think these 7 questions are the correct 7 questions, or you think that there's an 8th question that we're not asking ourselves, this is what we want to hear. But I'm going to peel these off and talk just a moment about each one, and then I want you to look for the answers in the balance of the presentation as I go forward. So the first one, how do I reach the end customer with a highly reliable solution? That's the substance of what we as a manufacturer do. That's the substance of what you as a wireless internet service provider do. But we're never done asking that question, because there's always that customer that's on the edge. There's always that customer that needs just a little bit more bandwidth. There's that customer that, damn it, that tree just grew. Right? How do I work around that? As welcoming guests in the hallway, and I had a guest ask me, hey, what are you guys doing with TV white space? And some of you have known me for a long time, and in the Motorola days, we were the first ones to jump on the TV white space bandwagon, way back when. And we've never brought one forward, because we could never convince ourselves that we could bring a TV white space solution to market that would provide highly reliable service at the data rate that we expected to be required. Nor meet the very last question that you're going to see, a cost-effective solution. But we're still thinking about it. We still track that space. We still pay attention to it. How do I provide appropriate bandwidth? The key word here, and I can underline it, is appropriate. And it's not just the headline data rate that any one solution can provide. And you'll see some slides here in just a moment of Sacred Winds using PMP 450M to provide 100 megabit service level agreements. But it's about the right level of service. It's about the utilization of 4-level QoS now within the PMP 450 platform. Right? It's about committed information rate. It's about the management of that platform. It's about traffic shaping. Right? That how do we make that easier and more accessible to our broad market? But how do we enable our partners to provide appropriate bandwidth to their customer base? How do I enable over-the-top services? This is a phenomenon that was really pioneered in North America. And obviously, the over-the-top services from Prime and other services continue to accelerate. But if you can't serve this problem, solve this problem, with every solution that you bring forward, just is not well bothered. So it's top of mind on how we optimize service delivery, knowing about over-the-top services. How do I scale the network? This goes to total cost of ownership. It goes to how do I exercise that vertical asset? How do I optimize my text time when I hang that AP on a tower that I can put as many subscriber modules as possible on that AP? Now, does that mean every AP is going to be maximized? No. Again, a conversation on the way in, talking with a network operator who was serving on average 5 subscriber modules on a 2.4 ePMP 1000. Had a lightning strike and said, why do I need to put up a full ePMP 2.4 AP? Can't I get a light version of that? That's just the density of my network. That's the kind of conversation that we want to have and share. It's not about the maximum number, it's about the right number. But it also goes to total cost of ownership. It goes to maximizing the utility of that vertical asset. How do I ensure the overall coverage model is predictable? This is one that has challenged us. We put great belief in Link Planner. Link Planner relies on flat earth. It relies on the network operator or network planner to put those vertical assets into Link Planner to provide predictive modeling. How do we get better at that? Some of you may have gone to session today about advanced network planning and our incorporation of LiDAR data into coverage modeling. But it's also being able to work with a network operator and provide predictive models that if you exercise that tower at that vertical height, this is the demographic population that you'll likely be able to serve, and here's the reliable data rates or service level agreements that you might be able to extend to that coverage area. Right? How do we incorporate that into Link Planner and CM Maestro to make it more easily accessible to you, the network operator? How do I know my network is operating? How do I know that it's operating at peak efficiency? Right? We get involved with network operators on a case-by-case basis to do some health studies, I guess. Well, some of us go for our annual checkup, some of us are delinquent in doing that. But providing that type of service on these networks would be beneficial. But why does that need to be a once-a-year kind of activity? Why does that have to be a contract or professional services engagement? Why isn't CN Maestro providing sharper intelligence about your network? That's the type of question that we're asking ourselves and challenging the CN Maestro team to go figure out. And this should be inherent given the data that we see across this network. Question number 7. That's all great, Scott, but how do I do that economically? What we ask ourselves when we look at new product development and making an R&D investment, and keep in mind, from start to finish, from the ground up hardware development, it's about 18 months. By the time you make that commitment, go through the development, bring your product to market, plus or minus 18 months. So you're making a bet well in the future on whether that's going to be a wise investment. But we ask ourselves each and every time, if we bring this product to market, will our network operators be profitable with this product? Because if they can't be profitable for it, we will never be profitable with it. And it'll take you guys about a nanosecond to figure out that it's not going to work for you. This is the single biggest challenge that we face. You can do 1 through 6, but can you do it with an economically viable solution? So again, as I go through the balance of the presentation, think about these 7 questions. Do we have the 7 questions right? Is there an 8th? Do I have number 3 worded wrong? This is the kind of conversation we'd like to have with you next door. So, strategic direction. That's all great, man. Let's get to the real stuff. So, where are we going strategically? We intend to expand the solution suite that we bring forward. This is not exhaustive, but to give you a sense of where we're making R&D investments today. So 24 to 29 and 60 gig, the ability, albeit short range, to provide gigabit type capacities to residential enterprise addresses holds great promise. The ability to exercise the 5G standard, leaving out the mobility aspects of that standard and focus on fixed access. CM Pilot E430 and MSP. Well, hey, how does that help me? Well, how many of you have contemplated bringing broadband access to dormitories at the local community, university or college that you serve? Right? Managed service provider is such a natural transition for a wireless internet service provider. I'm surprised that not every one of you aren't a managed service provider providing Wi-Fi as a service to government, to education, to enterprises in your community. 2.5 gigahertz CN Ranger, that's new to us. Get a lot of questions on, gee, why did you do 2.5 first rather than 3 gig? Well, frankly, we didn't have a 2.5 solution. And 2.5, albeit somewhat constrained here in the US, is a worldwide band. And we think about the worldwide opportunity that presents itself, built that CN Ranger as a RF agnostic platform, the baseband unit, and the ability to attach 3 gig to it in the 2019 timeframe. Adopt standards where appropriate. 802.11, classic example with Wi-Fi access, but also 3GPP and specifically 5G. To exercise that standard, there's a lot of good stuff there. CN Ranger, 3GPP compliant, the air interface, the ability to attach third-party devices to that solution. We will adopt standards where it makes sense to do so, and we will innovate on top of those standards as we are in every one of those cases. We are not a pure play 3GPP LTE solution, albeit compliant at the air interface. Invest in our core. You will see this in spades in the balance of the presentation. We are committed to this particular space, we're committed to fixed wireless broadband, and we're making significant investments in that regard. Intelligent edge. Atul spoke about it. You'll see a great deal of information next door. We believe that we can bring greater intelligence to the edge of these networks that results in greater utility, greater reliability, greater availability, and better peace of mind from our network operators. Certainly orchestrated with CN Maestro, but not dependent upon CN Maestro. The ability to work agnostic of the core, the ability to work agnostic of the cloud. Put the intelligence at the edge and optimize network performance. And you'll see this show up in a lot of our products moving forward. So, let's make that strategy real. This is the amazing part when I look at what our development engineers have accomplished in the course of the year or are soon to accomplish. When I think about that foundation, and again, this is by no means an exhaustive list, but we introduced PMP 450B mid-gain and high-gain to replace our legacy 450 subscriber module and continue to innovate on top of those two platforms. We introduced the ePMP Force 325, initially as a point-to-point radio, but soon to be a subscriber module attached to that ePMP 3000 AP. We introduced the PTP 550 and innovate on top of that in terms of iterative software releases to improve the performance of that platform and really leverage the capability of that non-adjacent asymmetric channel aggregation capability. We'll commence shipment of the 3 gig 450M in October. We've introduced, not all of these are hardware guys, uplink mu MIMO. 3GPP doesn't do uplink mu MIMO. We were the first to bring 14 by 14 massive mu MIMO to the market. We'll be the first to commercialize uplink mu MIMO and look for substantive performance enhancements on upstream driven networks. It's a long list of development, long list of R&D investment targeted at that foundation. Cloud managed access. We came into this market in late 2016, and we have invested significantly, and we have seen this market grow and accelerate with the innovation that we're bringing to market. We are cost disruptive. The functionality that is brought to bear on that platform is exceptional. We have expanded the product portfolio with the introduction of the wall plate, the 430, the E700 802.11ac Wave 2 access point. We're introducing CN Matrix initially as an enterprise class switch family that you'll see next door. We're doing a refresh of our home gateways, introducing the R240 and the R195. Those will commence shipping in the first quarter of this year. CN Pilot, the C4000, is a controller appliance that has been optimized to support an on-premise version of CN Matrix to leverage those facilities or those locations or those mindsets that prefer to have that control within their data center. We've optimized a host appliance for CN Maestro to offer. We have endeavors to introduce CN Matrix optimized for the WISP market and for tower mount applications in industrial and CCTV markets. More to come on that. We're introducing feature functionality on top of CN Maestro. By the way, CN Maestro is free. Doesn't cost you anything, but we will introduce feature functionality that extends that service. Modest fee attached to that for extended data retention and some other services. And I'll touch on that in just a moment. We introduced CN Archer to assist in the installation and commissioning of networks. We are extending that from PMP 450 to ePMP and to CN Pilot, moved it to Android, to the iOS platform as well. And as I mentioned, the enhancements on Link Planner to incorporate things like LiDAR. So our investment is on the foundation. It's in Wi-Fi, it's in IoT, it's in the service applications that are right across the top of it. A lot going on within Cambium networks. The tool mentioned the 40 megahertz version of PMP 450M. Just out of curiosity, how many folks in the room have a 450M deployed in their network today? All right, we got room to grow. All right, lots of room to grow. Derek, I hope you're paying attention there. All right, we demonstrated 1.2 gigabits of capacity in that 40 meg channel. It's one thing to demonstrate it, it's another thing to commit your service level agreement to it. Sacred Winds, and I'm sure there are others, have taken that step to use PMP 450M to its utmost capability to offer higher service level agreements and compete directly with DOCSIS-based networks and fiber-based networks. The performance is real. Talk a little bit about CBRS. There's been a lot going on with CBRS of late, and I think most of you in the room are familiar with it, and certainly this isn't the time to go through a tutorial. But CBRS has the opportunity to make an additional 100 megahertz of spectrum available to you as the service provider through either the GAA or priority access licenses. It's been long in coming. The end of the regulatory process appears to be on the horizon, and Cambium is prepared to exercise CBRS with the PMP 450 platform. So years ago, and we were engaged on the very front end of CBRS, we set forth a strategy. So this is what we're going to do with CBRS. And there are some key details here. First of all, we have, I'll brag a little bit, Cambium has the largest installed base of 3 gigahertz commercial product in the US. So we have a huge installed base. You have a huge installed base of investment. You've made capital investment in access points, you've made operating expense investment and capital investment expense in deploying those subscriber modules, and the clock is ticking on the expiration of Part 90. So we wanted to ensure that we could exercise that invested capital. That was job one. Job two is certainly some of you may choose to exercise independent SaaS services. So we wanted to be able to enable our network to be able to use on the SaaS service of your choosing. But we also recognize that could be a hassle. And many of you would prefer turnkey solutions. So we wanted to be able to provide turnkey SaaS services through CN Maestro as a value-added service. We sought to ensure that we didn't back off of our 3 gig investment. We were committed to the 3 gig space within the North American market, not just US with CBRS, but also in Canada, but on a worldwide basis. So we were not going to stand on the sidelines while the FCC figured out what they were going to do with CBRS. So we committed and maintained our investment. You see that in the form of the 3 gig 450M. So how do we do? Or how have we done? So I'm very pleased and very happy to tell you that the PMP 450 portfolio has tested fully compliant to the CBRS mask, meaning that your installed radios meet the CBRS RF requirements. The test set has been completed, and we'll publish that third-party test report and obviously attach it to our application to the FCC for full verification of CBRS. We've also verified that installed base of devices, APs, and SMs will take the necessary firmware upgrade over the air to support CBRS. What does that translate to? What am I telling you? What I'm telling you is your installed base, when that Part 90 expiration date comes up, and we're with WISPA and seeking an extension of that, we're all for that extension, you can migrate your network to support CBRS, your installed network. We have successfully completed integration with a SaaS provider. We've done that through CN Maestro, and we will be able to extend SaaS services using CN Maestro. But also, if you care to undertake engagement directly with that SaaS provider, you'll be free to do so as well. We have field trials underway today with 2 wireless internet service providers, the target market for our CBRS solution. We expect those field trials to be complete in October, and we're expecting initial commercial deployments to commence in Q4. That's somewhat tied to the FCC taking the final steps, so whenever the FCC says go, we'll be in a position to go. And we expect to have our full certification in place in November from the FCC. So, very happy with the progress the development teams have taken. Very pleased to be able to report that we'll be able to protect the investment of those of you that are using 3 gig 450s and carry those forward into the CBRS bands. I'd also like to, and I know there's several members of the WISPA FCC committee here with us this evening, but when you see those guys and gals, you owe them a round of applause. They have done yeoman's work with the FCC, with the other affiliated agencies and competitive pressures that exist in that space. They've really worked hard for you as members in that space and deserve a round of applause. We got a couple on display next door. We've got field trials that are underway on the 3 gig 450M around the world. We will commence commercial shipments late October. The final firmware release is scheduled for October 19th, which is 16.0. It's got some other neat stuff. Commercial shipments and deployment very late October, very early November. Test results are very positive. I guess I should be familiar with the 5 gig 450M. It is 14 by 14. I'm going to be transparent here and up front. The 3 gig is 8 by 8. So the natural question is why'd you guys back off? Well, there's really 2 reasons, and it'll become abundantly clearer. The first one when you guys go next door and see the sample. Physics. When you go down in band, things grow and generate more heat. So just the physical dimensions, we felt getting to 14 by 14 would be simply unmanageable in deploying the unit physically. Second, LTE standardized, LTE advanced standardized on 8 by 8. And this unit, physical unit, will be able to support a CN Ranger firmware load. So if in the future you were ever wanting to deploy an 8 by 8 LTE AP or migrate your PNP 450M network to a CN Ranger network, one of the elements that you can pull forward will be the 450M 3 gig. So physical constraints. Second, a migration strategy to protect your capital investment. Performance is in line with what we would expect from an 8 by 8 and consistent with the experience with our 450M 5 gig platform. Now, I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth. I'm going to tell you that we've got Ranger, initially at 2.5, and we'll drill into that in a moment. We're going to introduce 3 gig, a little foreshadowing in late Q2 2019. But I'm also going to tell you, we just invested in 3 gig 450M on the 450 platform. Well, why are you guys investing in 3 gig in both places? Atul touched on it when he said, we're really technology agnostic. These are threads in our fabric. And we don't much care whether you prefer LTE or you see the advantages of our PNP 450 platform. We're going to give you tools. The analogy that I would use is horses for courses. There are some horses that run great on grass, there are some horses that run great on dirt, and there are horses that run well in mud. It's the horse for the course. There's a fantastic white paper that Matt Mangriotis authored with help from others, but Matt Mangriotis is the lead author, that talks about the distinction between 3 gig PNP 450, particularly with the introduction of Medusa, and an LTE network. Right? LTE, by its nature, is not always the best solution. We're going to have both. So we're going to help you have a discussion about what's the best platform for the course your horse is going to race. But this is a good place to start. We'll complement the 3 gig 450M modules following form and function of the 5 gig 450B. We'll introduce the mid-gain in Q1 of next year. We'll introduce the high gain in Q2 of next year. Development is well underway. We work like the kinks with our 5 gig experience, so expect this in short order. I'm not going to drill into this in detail. I realize I'm probably already going long, but I'm a product guy and I like to talk about a healthy firmware roadmap behind the exciting hardware. And I would draw your attention to release 16.0 with uplink new MIMO that will be applicable to 3 gig and 5 gig. I'll draw your attention to exercising the aux port on that 450M. But we have a rich set of features coming forth on the firmware roadmap for the PNP 450 platform. All right, forget about 450. Let's talk about ePNP. I'm going to take you through a little journey that Sakid conducted over the last year or so, and I think it really fits well. So back in the day, we had ePNP 1000, our first generation, and we had a goal of solving frequency reuse and providing GPS-based synchronization in an affordable package. And we had a specific competitor in mind that we wanted to go compete with.
Who's that?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that. I can't. And so we accomplished that. We exercised ePNP 1000, and we had tremendous success with it. We were able to synchronize, we were able to reuse the frequencies, we were able to increase per AP subscriber counts beyond 25, 64, whatever it might be. We brought stability to that market space, reliability in hardware, but we needed to increase capacity. We needed to deal with higher levels of interference on a worldwide basis. Sakid and Dimitri, the development team, went back into the lab and they came forward with the second generation, the EPMP 2000. They carried everything forward from EPMP 1000 that we had perfected. They added to it dynamic filtering. They added to it uplink beam steer. And in doing so, they increased the capacity of the network significantly. And they enabled a higher modulation rate on that network because they were able to operate in higher noise environments. But it's never enough. There's always a need for higher data rates. There's always a need to bring broadband access to remote facilities. There's always a need to increase the subscriber count on that sector. So they went back to the lab. And they've come out with Gen 3. And this is a great example of where patience pays off. We could have jumped on AC Wave 1. And we made, at the time, what we thought was a very difficult decision to hold back on developing on a Wave 1 SoC. And we knew that we would forego a bit of mind share. We would forego a bit of market share. We might entice some of our long-standing customers to try that other taste. But we knew it was the right decision to wait for Wave 2. Hard then, in retrospect, the best decision we made on this platform ever. We are introducing EPMP 3 4x4 new MIMO. It will effectively double the capacity of the sector. We'll introduce 256 QAM. We'll certainly be able to support 80 meg channels. I doubt any of you will ever be able to use an 80 meg channel, but it's there. You can check the box. But we've also made substantive investment in the performance of the radio itself, the metrics that count. We want to improve the performance, the reliability of that radio itself. And they've done that with EPMP 3000. So, the first slide in this section was called 5X. And we can certainly check the box on 5X, but I want to be transparent enough. It requires you to check all the boxes. And some of you will be able to do that. And that's why we built the product. Where we can exercise it, let's exercise it. More probable, you'll be in that middle band. Right? You'll be able to exercise new MIMO. You'll likely be able to get higher levels of modulation. So your expectation should be around 3x in performance compared to the predecessor. At a minimum, simply by using new MIMO with an appropriately populated AP, you'll get 2x. And I think everybody would agree, if I can take down an AP and put a new one up and get 2x improvement, that's a fine day. I'm gonna, in the interest of time, not go through this, but we'll make this slide of that value proposition, and that it's not just all about 802.11ac Wave 2. There's lots of elements that go into improving the performance of that network as a whole that have been taken into consideration on this platform, including a whole suite of CPEs to accompany that AP. Now, one of the was economics, total cost of ownership. We endeavor to protect the investment that you've made. And we've done it two ways. We, Sakid and team, have done it two ways with this platform. It is both forward compatible and backward compatible. So you can take an EPMP 2000 off the tower, put an EPMP 3000 up, ensure that your firmware and your subscriber radios was upgraded. Don't forget that step. And you'll be able to support your legacy SMs on that EPMP 3000 AP up until the time you're ready to make that shift. Conversely, you can put Force 300, and again, there's a whole suite of them coming, onto your EPMP 2000 AP. Backwards and forwards compatible. Protect the investment that you've made in that network and carry it forward. Okay. As with the 450, very rich, functional, That is supporting EPMP 3000 and to a degree EPMP 2000 where appropriate. Lots of investment in software development as much as hardware development on those key features. I mentioned subscriber radios. The Force 325 is out, being used today for subscriber module. We're introducing the Force 316 in November for a mid-gain solution. We'll introduce a connectorized subscriber module that could also be used as an AP, and take third-party horn antennas and other creative applications. So that'll be forthcoming. And then we're looking at introducing 2 additional subscriber modules, one at 20 dBi and one at 13, to really fill out the subscriber portfolio for the EPMP line. Preliminary performance is rewarding. I suspect that that's so our expectations are, and you can talk to the team next door on the specifics of that capability. I talked about the PTP 550. We introduced the PTP 550, used it not properly. In all candor, we released it too early. The firmware was not ready for the game we wanted that radio to play. We had high expectations of the hardware, and our expectations have been met. Our firmware wasn't as robust as it needed to be. So to those I talked to last year and those that have experimented with this radio, I apologize for that. And we have made it right with subsequent software releases. Most recently, we introduced 1.4.3. If you have deployed a 550, didn't for the throughput on the paired channels, I'd encourage you, if you haven't already, download 1.4.3, and I think we will meet your expectations. We learned our lesson, we stepped back, we've invested significantly to get it right, and I think we've got it right with 1.4.3. We can certainly talk more about that next door. But that radio from a hardware standpoint and the ability to support non-adjacent channel aggregation is powerful. And it will carry the day. And we will be patient and we will persist. Ranger. I put in a tools presentation that would be one of the most beautiful products we've ever designed. That's what you get when you actually hire industrial designers to help design product from a UI standpoint, from a functionality standpoint, from a deployment standpoint. But let me start with the basis. So many of you are familiar with Telrad, you're familiar with bicells, you may be familiar with the broader LTE architecture. Bear with me for a moment. The basis of LTE is really, there's the enhanced packet core. The enhanced packet core is where the intelligence of that network, traditional LTE network, exists and resides. It's where the complexity and the cost resides, if not on the initial acquisition, certainly on the software support and the technical resources to support that on an ongoing basis. And then, of course, you've got the UEs, subscriber modules, in our parlance. What Cambium Networks has done was to effectively eliminate the enhanced packet core. We have virtualized it, we have embedded it into the baseband unit, and you as a network operator will never touch an EPC. Now, the EPC has to exist in order to be able to check the box that you've got an LTE compliant solution. Buried that function behind our UI, behind our configuration, behind our management of that platform. So for all intents and purposes, the EPC doesn't exist as a network operator. Embedded in the baseband unit, working locally at that tower location. Our architecture has also changed. The PMP 450 line is effectively an all-outdoor radio. The baseband and the radio are co-located. We have gone to a split mount architecture with the LTE Ranger. We have the baseband unit, which is RF agnostic, and we have a remote radio head, the RRH. The baseband unit, and I'll touch on this in just a moment, can support we envisioned it as 4 2x2 remote radio heads, or you can support a single 8x8 remote radio head with a single baseband unit. You can daisy chain the baseband units. Those remote radio heads can be of any RF flavor. So initially 2 gig, then 3 gig, then 5 gig. Can all be attached to a single baseband unit. Architecturally, from a deployment standpoint, this is what you would be looking at. And you can see the baseband unit, you can see the sector antenna, you can see the remote radio head, you can see the UE next door. So you can populate in the top left, be a different RF band, it could be the same RF band. You choose what meets best your network attached to a single baseband unit. In terms of the first release, we'll describe it and we'll use the parlance of 2.5, but we'll effectively support 3 band 40, band 41, and band 38. We've got development of the 3 gig underway. It's a band spin on top of that. It will support band 42, 43, and 48. So US and Canada will have you effectively covered with a TDD LTE solution for fixed deployment using CN Ranger. Baseband unit, remote radio head, and UE. At a system level, all supported at a system level, all integrated with CN Maestro, capable of sort of supporting CBRS when the 3 gig remote radio head launches. Transition over to CN. We're almost there, guys. 2 more, maybe 3 more product lines to talk about. So, CN Pilot. I think we should start with a cocktail and then have the presentation. So, 3 years ago, the CN Pilot E400 was our sole AP. We have had a blast building out this portfolio. And it is a market-driven portfolio as we reach into new vertical markets and new applications. But at this point, we really have a complete solution to meet just about any deployment scenario. From a hospitality environment like this hotel, in fact, Darren, where's Darren? Darren's here. Darren, raise your hand. Where's Darren? There he is, all right. So Darren is the CN Pilot product line manager. He was here last week doing a site walk at a facility very much like this one that is contemplating CN Pilot for deployment. That's how far we've come. We've come from a single AP to a facility like this contemplating the deployment of came from a single AP in the E400 to a facility like this contemplating deployment. That's a long way in 3 short years. Indeed. So, E410, E600, those are 802.11ac Wave 2 platforms. E700 has begun shipment last quarter. AC Wave 2 outdoor, a really powerful outdoor unit. We persist with our E500 series, which has gone gangbusters and really held itself up admirably from a competitive standpoint, very disruptive in the market. The 501 and the 502 are sector versions of that E500 and have been used in high-density outdoor deployments like stadiums around the world. The network controller, we have a very flexible architecture. We have CN Maestro for cloud control, cloud managed. We have CN Maestro on-premise, and we have CN Pilot, where it is a hosted or nominated AP that hosts the controller functionality for small implementations. And then, as I mentioned, we're introducing the C4000 as a packaged controller appliance for, again, on-premise implementations. The R series for home gateways will be complemented this year with the I'm out of control here now. So the R240 and the R195 will come on board, and I would expect us to end of life in an appropriate time from a market standpoint, the R201 and R200 series. More to come on that downstream a bit. But let me back up. The E700 is really a bad piece of equipment. This is a really robust outdoor AP. And I know many of you experience outdoor Wi-Fi access to your communities as a complementary service to your WISP services. If you're going to bring outdoor Wi-Fi to local high schools, ball fields, playgrounds, etc., you have an opportunity to now move into the Wave 2 space with the E700. Let's talk about CN Matrix. Who was surprised? It was kind of an anticlimactic reaction, I thought. I think our secret got out a little early, Tool. We might have had some. But CN Matrix is such a natural evolution for Cambium Networks and our partners. Every one of our CN Pilot deployments touches a switch. virtually every one of our point-to-multipoint deployments, be it 450 or ePMP, touch a switch. Certainly every one of our CN Ranger deployments will touch a switch. A switch is the ubiquitous element of the wireless network to make that interface to the wired network. And to be able to manage and control that from CN Maestro is a step forward for Cambium Networks, and we think it's a step forward for our network operators. We've applied, though, our experience in fixed wireless and Wi-Fi to bring a bit more intelligence to that switch than the traditional switch manufacturers. It all started with a better understanding of what's going on in the environment. When you look at a typical environment today, more and more devices are being attached to the networks. We think of them wirelessly, but there is as many wired connections as there are wireless connections to these networks. The smart thermostat in this building is likely wired, not wireless. Certainly in your home, it may very well be wireless, but it's wired here. But the proliferation of devices that transcend wired and wireless networks. The desire to be, by network operators, to be able to manage those networks ubiquitously. They don't care whether it's wired or wireless. They want to be able to treat their network as a singular network. They want quality of service to be agnostic of whether it's a Wi-Fi AP or a wired switch or a device that attaches to it. Why shouldn't QoS flow seamlessly through that network? Why do I have to uniquely configure the port on the switch to recognize that that device has this level of QoS? Shouldn't the switch recognize that? Why do I have to uniquely configure the port on the switch for a specific PoE output? Or why do I have to configure the port on that switch for a specific security policy? Shouldn't that be automated? Shouldn't the network dictate what those policies are and do it without human intervention? Platform for services. As you move application computational horsepower at the edge to make more intelligent decisions at the edge, you're going to need more robust hardware at the edge to do that. And we've anticipated that. So, a tool put this slide up. We talked about cloud-managed Wi-Fi. That's where we got started with CN Maestro. That was the launch platform, if you will. We are most certainly moving to cloud-managed access. We talked about Wi-Fi, we talked about Matrix, but also contemplate CBRS. That's an access platform. SaaS is a cloud service. Differentiation. So, the way to think about this is before you can get to Cambium differentiation on this switch, you first have to cover the basics. If you can't cover the basics, your differentiation doesn't much matter. So if I think about the basics, you got to have affordable quality. It's got to be dependable, it's got to be reliable, it's got to be robust, and you got to be competitively priced. While the switch market is enormous, it's also a very competitive market. I'm sure you guys can all tell us that in spades how competitive that market is. We're prepared for that. It has to be easy to use. Right? Certainly, you still get your CLI, but why you have to use that CLI is beyond us. But it has to be easy to use. Right? It's got to be feature rich. Much like Wi-Fi, the evolution of that SoC, much of the functionality on these switches becomes standardized. And if you're not able to completely check the boxes for layer 2 and layer 3 switching, if you can't handle the management plane, if you can't ensure a secure network, need not apply. We've done these things. John Chow and team are going to be next door, and they'll convince you 6 ways to Sunday that we've done these things. But what they really want to talk about is how we're differentiating ourselves. They want to talk about the intelligent edge. They want to talk about zero-touch, policy-based configuration at a platform level. They want to talk about the enhanced security of recognizing when a device is attached to that port, what security policy should be applied to it automatically. They want to talk about how they'll detect rogue APs that are being attempted to attach to the network. They want to talk about intelligent PoE. Why can't that port sense how much current is being asked of it and configure itself to provide that? Why do you have to dictate at a port level the PoE obligations? And God forbid if somebody unplugs it from one port and sticks it into another port. And bad things happen then, don't they? And that never happens. Right? They want to talk about intelligent PoE. They want to talk about being wireless aware. They want to talk about the ability to marry our fixed wireless broadband and our Wi-Fi experience to a more powerful switch. They want to talk about how CN Maestro is going to assist on onboarding of devices and the switch itself. They want to talk about the ease of monitoring, configuration. They want to talk about troubleshooting. So very quickly work through the checkboxes on the standards. Get into a heavy conversation with them on the differentiation and have them demonstrate the switches that they've got to share. So initially we're introducing 8-port and 24-port switches for enterprise. These will start shipping in Q4 of this year. Beta tests are underway. We're wrapping up final software development. Hardware is finished. You would also recognize the common industrial design of this platform. Aligns quite nicely with the baseband unit for CN Ranger. Aligns quite nicely with the C4000 appliance. Not by accident. A very attractive suite of hardware platforms to support your networking requirements. So, finishing, we're on a stretch run here, guys. Almost ready for that cocktail. So, CN Maestro. PTP, PNP, Wi-Fi, switch, all through CN Maestro. Gives you that end-to-end wireless view across the network, normalizes your operations, provides for migration management of these networks. When you're moving from ePMP 2000 to ePMP 3000 and managing the firmware, understanding what devices are deployed on what AP and how you're going to manage that migration. How quickly can you update remote passwords? How quickly can you detect rogue APs? Attaching at what RSSI level? The ability to manage your network is there. Now extended to include CN Matrix. I mentioned so first, always remember, CN Maestro, what you have today in CN Maestro is free, will always be free. We'll continue to enhance that functionality, that feature set, but we will bring advanced services on top of that under the moniker of CN Maestro Pro. We've itemized what some of those might be. For example, SaaS services. There's an underlying cost structure that the SaaS providers have to maintain. CN Maestro Pro subscription for fixed wireless broadband. We're working through the details of what that might be now, and we really appreciate your guys' feedback and questions in this area. I talked about the CN Maestro C4000. This, I think, second half of November, this will be commercial, and it is a piece of hardware that's optimized to support CN Maestro and act as that on-premise controller functionality and can extend services to the other Cambium fabric threads. One of the elements that we invested in CN Maestro that we would really like you guys to take into consideration of is managed service provider. We believe that you as WISP, if you're not doing it today, have the natural inclination to be a managed service provider for Wi-Fi. We work with a lot of these MSPs today. Their characteristics are not much different than your own. They have the technical expertise on site. They understand customer management. They have ease of use of the technology. It's really a different type of WISP. Rather than managing 450 subscriber modules or ePMP subscriber modules, they're managing Wi-Fi APs and firewalls. We've tried to make that easier to undertake with the use of CN Maestro and embedding MSP functionality into Maestro, the ability to handle multiple accounts in a tree fashion, to be able to look at your network as a whole and then very quickly dive into your discrete clients to see the performance of that network. It takes the difficulty and challenge out of being a managed service provider and puts. I'm not going to drill into this in detail, but Emilio will be next door and he'll give you demonstrations and screenshots of what this managed service provider functionality looks like. Happy to take any questions as we go through that, or a virtual demonstration of that platform. talk a little bit about CN Archer. Who here's who's experimented with CN Archer? All right, not very many. So CN Archer, I think, is a hidden gem from Cambium. So you can go to Google Play or the Apple Store. You can download the platform. It's free. Download the application, and you can download a data sample set. So you can kind of experiment with the tool. But it's intended to facilitate timely, error-free installation and commissioning of subscriber radios. So if you can accelerate your installation, if you can reduce human error by your techs, it might be something that you want to take a look at. Works seamlessly on Maestro to be useful. So hit Apple Store, hit Google Play, download it, play around with it, give it a go. So, conclusion. There's a long list of products that we're bringing to bear to enable you to solve problems and enable opportunities. We're doing that with fixed wireless broadband, with significant investment, expanding the portfolio. We're doing it with cloud managed access, and we're doing it with our investment in applications and services. We're doing it for the WISP industry. We're doing it with the WISP industry.
Is that next on the agenda? I mean, we have all these tools, but now we need to do something with the tools.
Indeed. The two most common requested features is schedule upgrades, and the second is email alerts on faults. Both of those are on the roadmap. I didn't include the CN Maestro roadmap, but we do have a Maestro roadmap. Emilio can speak to the specific releases for those two features, but I think it's 2.01. But if you track me down and give me your card, I can give you that answer. But both those features are scheduled on the roadmap for near term.
Hi, do you have any idea what kind of cost we can expect for the SaaS services?
So, SaaS services, we're in the process of finalizing our own prices. So you caught me about 30 days early on that. But we've heard ranges in the marketplace of $2 to $3 type of range per month per subscriber radio. Take some feedback on that as well. Yes, sir.
Yeah, when is CN Maestro and IBM Watson gonna make a love baby?
Actually, we're Sri. We're Sri in the house. Yeah. So talk to Sri about Watson and what he's been learning about the application of Watson and more broadly artificial intelligence to post-sale support. So we're not going down that path with Watson, but we're learning
or any AI,
what we can do with that. Absolutely.
It'd be great to have something to just look at your whole network and tell you where the problems are.
Yeah. So this is something that a tool very much has a vision for and a passion for. Is if you think about the level of information that we have available to us with your concurrence within your network, CN Maestro should absolutely be providing predictive maintenance. It should be providing preventive maintenance in advance of there being an issue. We know we have the ability to do it. We're working to that end.
Hello. I have a product that is part of your competitor, and I've been needing to move a lot of it over, which I have in my network. But CN Maestro does not allow me to mass search all the onboarded radios very conveniently at all. As a matter of fact, I've discovered the only way I've been able to do it is individually. Are you planning on making it like maybe a discovery tool that maybe might be able to allow us to mass load the amount of radios that I have into it quickly by searching subnets possibly in the future? Or,
we are. Are you going to stick around a bit?
Yeah.
I would love if you could stop by the Maestro table and let's talk a little bit further about that. And either myself or Emilio would be a good place to start. That's a great question, long answer. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Will the matrix switch have a sync injector like the CMM5 built into it?
Yeah, we will provide, so there's two versions. First is a 8-port and a 24-port. Both of those will be available with or without PoE out. And we will absolutely provide PoE out for our product portfolio in a fashion similar to CMM5, but with a whole lot more intelligence. Oh, sorry, sync. I put up on the bullet point list a WISP, CN Matrix WISP. The sync function would be associated with that platform, not the enterprise platform.
So other than speed improvements across the generation between the 2000 and 3000, have you seen any other issues as far as latency or packet loss, or how does the processor on either side of that handle the connection, jumping back and forth?
So are you asking, is it going to work?
I'm asking how well it works, other than just speed 2x.
Yeah. Part of the investment we made was to improve the RF characteristics and to reduce the level of sensitivity necessary for performance. So our expectation, and we'll bear this out through our beta test, is we would expect, in identical conditions, improved performance, and in inferior conditions, improved performance. We open the doors, so if you don't want to listen to me take Q&A, which I'm going to stand up here and take it until nobody asks, the bar is open. Go ahead.
Will be any routing functionality implemented in C4000?
Surprised how many people already tell that.
All Cambium network solutions are backed by a global support organization to meet your business needs. Improve performance while reducing the time and cost of managing a network by moving the intelligence from the core to the edge. An intelligent edge network has the ability to react to changing conditions. Lose connection to the cloud? No problem. Intelligent edge networks don't have to send all traffic to a central controller or not, reducing the total network load and scaling latency. Network policies are centrally defined by CN Maestro management system and consistently enforced at the edge. Policy engines resident locally in both the switch and transmission elements continue to provide secure connectivity. Configure virtual networks for different user groups. Automatically detect new devices and authorize them for specific services. No more security breaches or outages due to misconfiguration that can happen with vendor data entry. Feel free to use CN Pilot Wi-Fi products. Intelligent edge capabilities are now built into our new CN Ranger LTE distribution network and CN Matrix enterprise switches. Extend connectivity.
That's what I said.
Increase efficiency.
Cool.
All
Tell me specifically what happened.
solutions can be remote. PTP infrastructure. Wireless backhaul and licensed microwave links offer 1.36 gigabit throughput.
Brothers Wisp, let's take a ride through space on this mothership. Wireless networking. We talk about equipment and methodology, so sit back and start learning. Lighten up the tower so people can start searching. Shooting up the web in neighborhoods, net surfing. We got horrible jokes, we're loud and annoying, but we're informative facts, we're not disappointing. Just give us a listen, cause fun is the mission. I'm telling you, you don't know what you are missing. Ideas and some good comedy given. If you missed the show already, don't worry, you're forgiven.